At CES 2019, InWin unveiled a new iteration of their compact A1 chassis. They're calling it the, wait for it, InWin A1 Plus. Today we're going to put the A1 Plus through its paces and find out if it's the right Mini ITX case for you. Welcome back to Craft Computing, everyone. As always, I'm Jeff. When it comes to case design, InWin has never been one for tradition. They're a company that constantly throws well-known form factors out the window just for the sake of doing something a little bit different. Yet at the same time, they seem to be able to carry a very consistent design language through most of their products. Meet the InWin A1 Plus, the newest compact chassis in their lineup. It's a box very reminiscent in size to the old shuttle PCs and LAN party boxes of the early and mid-2000s, but with vastly superior build quality and a host of modern features. For starters, this is a Mini ITX form factor case, but not one that's lacking for space on the inside. It has a total of 4 120mm fan mounts and boasts a full ATX-sized power supply. The crazy thing here is that the A1 Plus actually comes with a pair of InWin Series Loop addressable RGB fans and a 650-watt 80+ gold power supply pre-installed. Some other bigger-than-you-thought features include a pair of 2.5-inch SSD sleds behind the motherboard tray, support for up to a 160mm tall air cooler or 120mm AIO, and room for a graphics card up to 320mm long. Walking around the exterior of this case, you're going to be hard-pressed to find any right angles on this technically still a rectangle box. The sides of the A1 are made of a very sharp-looking powder-coated steel, with a full tempered glass side panel running the length of it. The reverse side of this case has a removable panel with a hex fan grille, very reminiscent of other recent InWin cases like the InWin 303 or the InWin 301. The top and bottom of this case are both made of acrylic, or at least what I'm fairly confident is acrylic, with the bottom feet having a very nice addressable RGB strip underneath to give the case a great looking underglow effect. There are a pair of 120mm fan mounts in the foot section of this case as well, but those fans are not included. You are going to want to consider picking up a pair though, as the two fans that are included in this case are on the side and on the rear of the chassis, and give the case overall a negative pressure as they're both blowing out by default. The top panel features your power button, power and hard drive lights, and a pair of USB and audio ports. The most prominent feature on top, however, is definitely the Qi 1.2 wireless charging pad, which supports up to 10 watts of wireless charging power. I don't know why I'm doing that, because my phone is not wireless charging compatible. You get the idea. Moving to the inside, for as large of hardware as the A1 Plus supports, the motherboard tray does have some pretty tight quarters to it. Don't make the same mistake I did and leave all of the fans and the power supply installed when trying to put the motherboard in. Do yourself a favor and free up a little bit of that space first. Even with the power supply and fans removed, it's still going to be fairly difficult to get everything plugged into this board, especially along the top with things like EPS power and system fan headers. One thing I was thankful for though was the front I/O headers being a single plug, rather than the standard 2-pin plugs you get with the power button and system lights. Around the back side of the motherboard tray is another spot you're going to want to take your time, pack a lunch, maybe crack open another beer, because the cable management here is a bit difficult. It's not that there's not space here, the problem is that you have a very small case with 4 fans, each of which require a PWM connection and an RGB connection. All of those cables are daisy chainable, which means they all need to sit in roughly the same spot to be able to work. I did manage to get all of the PWM plugs connected and stuffed into the top lip of the case here, and the RGB was forced over to the right-hand side. A very generous supply of zip ties was used to prevent these cable wads from falling apart and coming disconnected, and on more than one occasion, more zip ties were still needed. With the build complete, let's move on to lighting and thermals. On top of the 2 Sirius loop fans, which you can see inside the main chassis here, I also added a pair of InWin Crown 120 fans in the bottom foot section. I also used InWin's included addressable RGB controller. The ring lights on the A1 look amazing, especially coupled with the Wraith Spire RGB cooler from AMD. I do have one negative thing to say about the RGB controller, and that's that it's very basic. By that I mean that every mode is either a single static color, like you see here, or chasing and breathing effects which run the entire gamut of colors. I'd really like to see InWin include a controller that has modes with single or 2-color chase settings, not just RGB effects for prancing unicorns. But unfortunately, outside of having a compatible J-Rainbow header on your motherboard and accompanying software, which my MSI B450i gaming motherboard does not, the included controller is the only way to make your case light up, which, unless you want the rainbow of colors, really limits you to these single static color options. As far as thermals go, I'm actually very impressed. System and CPU fans never exceeded 900 RPM, making this living room, bedroom, and even marriage compatible. The Ryzen 5 2600 reached a max temp of 68 degrees Celsius under synthetic load and hovered right around 55 degrees Celsius under gaming. The Vega 64 never went beyond 82 degrees Celsius while testing, thanks to the dual 120mm fans blowing cold air straight into it. So, how do we call this one? The InWin A1 Plus retails for $199 US in either black or white and includes 2 addressable RGB fans and a 650 watt gold power supply. Given the cost of a decent quality ITX case and then purchasing those items separately, I'm going to chalk that up to a pretty good deal. It is definitely starting to flirt with the boutique case line, but given the quality construction, included accessories, and overall quality, it most definitely gets a recommendation from me. That's going to do it for this one, guys. Let me know down below what you guys think of the InWin A1 Plus. Is it a good deal, or is there a better one to be had out there? Sound off in the comments below. Be sure to like this video if you liked it, and subscribe to Craft Computing if you haven't done so already. Follow me on Twitter at Craft Computing, and if you're interested in any of the parts featured in this build here, check out the Amazon affiliate links down in the video description. That's going to do it for me in this one, guys. Thank you again, Caveman, for a really fantastic beer, and as always, I will see you in the next video. Cheers, guys. I want another one of those. Today's beer comes from superfan Caveman over on the Patreon, which you can join for only $1 and gets you access to my exclusive Discord server. Totally check that out, links down in the video description below. Anyway, today's brew is from South Shore Brewery. It's the Rhodes Scholar Stout, made out northern Wisconsin's first microbrewery, established in 1995. So apparently, until 1995, northern Wisconsin didn't have a microbrewery. I'm trying to tease a head out of this thing, and it's not really cooperating. Reminds me a lot in consistency, especially on the head, of the Deschutes Obsidian Stout, which is a good quality stout, but not one you get a lot of aromatics or a lot of head out of. The Art and Science of Beer, a smart, delicious brew. A tribute to beer designer Alan Rhodes, a fellow brewer who captured a blue ribbon at the Western Washington State Fair. It's everything a stout should be. Rich, hearty, not thick or overpowering, and with a creamy head. Roasted barley combines with chocolate and crystal malts to create a wonderful flavor. Complements dessert well. Try one in place of a cup of coffee. Ooh, kind of a chocolate. How do you describe that? Very good right up front. Very sweet. Definitely a trending dessert beer like they mentioned in here. You know, it reminds me of a s'more. It reminds me of kind of a toasted marshmallow, a little bit of creaminess with like a dark chocolate, and almost kind of like a graham cracker, but a little bit of roast. Not necessarily a coffee roast, but just a good roast flavor that you get on like roasted peanuts or something like that. Very, very good. I like that. This is a beer I'm enjoying even more as it warms up just slightly and I'm getting into it a little bit. This happens a lot for me with stouts, as you get a little bit more boldness coming out, but at the same time it actually kind of smooths out some of the harsh notes. Very, very good.